Welcome, everyone, to this week's edition of Working Through It Wednesday. This is the second part of a three-part series that we are doing on tips and PDSAs and then the crosswalk between. We are thrilled to have with us today Dr. Margaret Meriwether, who's going to be presenting for us on the PDSA portion of this presentation. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Meriwether. So for your enjoyment, welcome, Dr. Margaret Meriwether. Thank you so much for being with us today, Margaret.
Thanks, Taylor. It's really great to be here. I'm the Director of School Mental Health at the South Carolina Department of Mental Health. And these slides are courtesy of the National Center for School Mental Health at the University of Maryland School of Medicine. And they are funded in part by the Health Resources and Services Administration to lead the National Quality Initiative, which is focused on comprehensive school mental health services. The National Center for School Mental Health's mission is to strengthen policies and programs in school mental health to improve learning and promote success for students. PDSAs, or Plan, Do, Study, Act cycles, are small repeated tests of change that a school and district teams can pilot during a quality improvement process. And this was all done as part of the National Quality Initiative. And the goals include increasing state policies and programs that promote quality, sustainability, and growth of school behavioral health services. And this is what the one-page PDSA form looks like that teams are using in the COIN, which is the National Learning Collaborative. South Carolina has 3 school districts across the state participating. And you can see this format has different fields for the team to take note of what change they're interested in describing, testing, and then they fill out the Plan, Do, Study, and Act sections. This is a way to organize quality improvement work and make steady progress toward clear goals. Each test should be really small and quick, taking 2 weeks or less. And that or less is really important. About a week is what we're looking at, really, to learn how a specific observable change works in the real world. Frontline district or school staff test multiple Plan, Do, Study, Act cycles, then implement the resulting best version of the change. This form helps teams track their work and share and learn from others. It's our common language in many ways to understand what other teams are working on. The PDSA cycle is shorthand for testing a change by developing a plan to test the change, carrying out the test, that's do, observing and learning from the consequences, that's the study part, and determining what modifications should be made to the test for the act portion. And okay, having a little jumping around in the slide deck. So the PDSA cycles are supposed to build on one another. At first, PDSAs will start with a very small scale test that is simple, exploratory, and designed to succeed. Follow-up tests are then used over a variety of conditions to identify weaknesses and adjust how the change operates. Wide-scale tests of change are designed to predict and prevent failures so that when you get to implementing the change, you have good confidence that the change is effective and will lead to the system improvements you want. This gives structure to the quality improvement process, and the team can focus on lessons learned and iterations along the way to a more stable, sustainable scale up of a new way of doing something. I really want to pause and ask anyone to ask questions, but since that's not an option, I'm just going to keep going. There are 7 key school mental health quality improvement areas. On this slide, these areas are from the SHAPE system, which is a free online tool to help with quality improvement and school mental health evaluation strategies. The National Center for School Mental Health has divided school mental health into 7 key improvement areas, which we call domains. These domains are very broad, and there are a lot of specific improvements that can be made within each one. And okay. Here are 4 example improvement areas, and under each one of them, there is a specific improvement the team has in mind. In this session, we're going to walk you through some examples of how to break these improvement areas down into small tests of change. And here are all 4 areas. Now, so let's use the example of improving detection of mental health needs contributing to chronic absenteeism. This team wanted to institute change whereby they assess mental health concerns for students who are chronically absent. Their first test involved adding a mental health assessment to attendance meetings. This seemed pretty small and simple. However, the test failed because the parent didn't attend. So the mental health assessment feedback couldn't occur. This team abandoned this idea and instead started focusing on how to improve parent attendance at and engagement in the attendance meetings. So the PDSA cycles started by looking different, where on tests 2, 3, 4, and 5, they tested different ways to improve parent attendance to meetings, and then started scaling this up to more students and different type of attendance concerned. Once parents' attendance was improved, the team then circled back to adding the mental health assessment to their meetings. So that's test 3, test 4, and test 5. So you can see how it scales up over time. And here's an example of an improvement area in teaming. To continue efficient and effective school community partnerships during distance learning. To do this, the team wants to adapt communication mechanisms for remote learning. They have 3 types of tests they can run to work toward that goal. Here's the first one, the private school mental health discussion space on Google Classroom. Another test is the school mental health team email thread. And you can see next how they address that. And this is the PDSA for testing virtual huddles on Zoom. Virtual hurdles happen too, but that's different. And you can see here the change idea and the date of the test onto the more specifics about plan, do, study, and act. Now, if if you need ideas for a change idea, other improvement areas can be found in SHAPE, which once again is a free online resource for districts and schools. And remember that change ideas and PDSAs should be worked on for several months. It is not a one and done. And then, so we've got some more PDSA examples. And here we go with Apple Ridge Schools. You'll learn a lot more about PDSAs, but they are basically a way to organize work and make steady progress towards goals. Change idea is making a change to day-to-day activities, practices, or processes that are predicted to directly or indirectly result in improvement. Common systems for changes for quality improvement are eliminate duplication, create efficiency, improve workflow, optimizing service delivery, change the work, or in this case, school environment. Number 4 is managing time more efficiently. Number 5 is not clearing my throat, but it is reducing variation and improving consistency, error proofing. And the final one is improving a product or service. Oops, and here we go. On this PDSA worksheet, you'll see 4 examples of improvement areas, and under each one is a specific improvement the team has in mind. In this session, we're going to walk you through some examples of how to break these improvement areas down into smaller tests of change. This is a good example of a PDSA cycle. The test was planned. Always include a prediction about how the test will change in an improvement, including a plan for running the test and collecting the data to study. Number 2, the plan was attempted. That's the do part. And then 3, time was set aside to analyze the data and study the results. Did my prediction hold? What assumptions need revision? That's that moment of reflection so you can really analyze the data and see how to adapt to real world circumstances. Once you've completed the Q&A and selected your 1 or 2 domains to focus on, now how do you go about making and testing quality improvement changes? Frontline school or school district test with multiple PDSAs and then implement only the best version. And so at the end of this particular Plan, Do, Study, Act worksheet, you'll see that under Act, Adapt was selected. And this action was rationally based on what was learned. And the options for action are adapt, adopt, or abandon. A lot of times adapt is the way to go to improve the change and continue testing. And under adapt is the change for the next PDSA cycle. And why do we test? Remember, to consider the scale of change and improvement efforts. There's power in starting small. So like the frog on the lily pad, it's better to break down the large goal into small pieces that you can accomplish one by one. So getting to that next lily pad, it's a small step to get across the pond. Now, part of this is to dream big. So just like our frog, we've got to take our big improvement ideas and dreams and break them down into smaller steps. By starting small and building toward our visions for improvement, teams can steadily stay on track toward their quality improvement goals. Next, we're going to talk about how to take those big improvement ideas and break them down into manageable changes. So very small scale tests. This is why we test. It's simple and designed to succeed. Follow-up tests offer a variety of conditions to identify weaknesses. Wide-scale tests of change are designed to predict and prevent failure. And then there's implementation of change. So why small tests? Because we want to stay out of the danger zone, which that disaster zone is when the consequences are major and the size of the test is large. So the consequences of a failed test are rarely minor. There's impact on patients, resource utilization, morale, and momentum can all be affected by a large failed test with major consequences. So we want to stay in the other boxes, and preferably this box, to learn from failure. So one way to look at this is large scale change without testing is building the plane while flying it. And which that's an example of taking on too much. So keep the scale small and manageable. Don't overload the bicycle. And remember, not all changes are improvements. As William Faulkner said, too many people confuse motion with progress. We've definitely all seen in life improvements or changes that were not improvements, or improvements that were billed as improvements that were not. So we want to avoid that. I'm not sure why things just went blank. What just happened? Oh dear.
The beauty of technology, always making sure to keep all the pieces together.
What just happened?
I'm going to pause action.
You're in good company if you feel like a failure during this process. Repeated use of PDSA cycles changes hunches, theories, and ideas into changes that result in improvement. Thank you so much. And now I'm going to go back to Taylor.
Thank you so much, Dr. Margaret Meriwether. This was lovely, and we genuinely appreciate having this resource for our community and for the schools throughout South Carolina, as well as our nation. So thank you so much for everyone who joined us today for this presentation on PDSAs. As a gentle reminder, we will be completing the third part of this series, and Dr. Bob Stevens will rejoin with us to discuss the crosswalk between TIPS and PDSAs. So for this particular iteration of our series, if you could please respond in our survey what you liked, how we could shift, and any additional feedback would be incredibly appreciated. So thank you so very much, Dr. Meriwether. It was lovely having you with us today. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and close out, and we look forward to seeing everybody in the third part of our series. Thank you kindly.